Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar on Social Selling 101. Firstly, apologies to you if you tried to log in for this session a couple of weeks ago. We did have technical errors. We hope you got the message about that at the time. So today is that session. Thanks for joining if you've joined us live. Thank you for joining if you're watching the recording back later. My name is Luan and I am your host for today's session. The session is being recorded, so you will get a copy of it afterwards along with the slides. And if you do have any questions as we go through the session, please pop them into the chat or the questions box. We'll be keeping an eye on those. I will talk for about 30 minutes and we will have time for Q&A at the end as well if you have any. So in case we haven't met before, the person talking behind your screen today is, here I am, Luan Wise. I've got 20 years experience in working in advertising agencies, working client side as a marketing manager and running my own consultancy business for the last 8 years. I am a chartered marketer. I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing. I'm also an author. I've written 2 books, Relax, It's Only Social Media, and also created the Social Media Planner. Although I have a very traditional marketing background, I have been involved in social media for a number of years now and really proud that I'm actually involved directly with some of the platforms. I am one of LinkedIn Learning's course instructors. So if you have a LinkedIn premium account, you can access all their online learning courses. I'm also an accredited trainer for Facebook and Instagram at the moment as part of their She Means Business campaign with Enterprise Nation. I'm a coach for Google's Digital Garage initiative, and I'm also particularly proud to be an IPSE ambassador, hosting webinars for them most months. So today's topic, social selling. The first thing to note about social selling is that it isn't really about selling at all. And if you're like me, that kind of brings a huge sigh of relief because as a business owner, still, I don't feel comfortable with selling myself and my services. It sometimes just feels a little bit icky. I feel a bit uncomfortable about it and the process of it. But I do feel comfortable with building relationships, working with people where there's a mutual know, like, and trust factor. So what I am going to be talking about is what social selling is, that there are 4 techniques to social selling: personal branding, social listening, social prospecting, and employee advocacy. And if you are a freelancer and you're working by yourself, then let's call that peer advocacy as well for the purpose of today's session, because we can still engage with other people. So if social selling isn't about selling, what is it? It's about establishing a brand. And often that's your personal brand. It's about focusing on the right prospects, engaging with content, and building relationships. So to those of you that, like me, we're breathing in this sigh of relief about selling not being selling, the good news is that social selling is replaced in the traditional sales model. It replaces cold calls, which is what you're seeing on the left of the screen. The old sales model was all about cold calling, qualifying leads, doing demonstrations. I was in that world for many years, and as a client-side marketer in B2B, I know it still exists, but I also know that the new sales model on the right, with social selling at the heart of it, gets results too. So this is about using our social networks, educating and engaging with audiences for the purposes of selling. It's about engaging with people. They may not be aware of what you do right now. They may not know what they need, or they just haven't found the right solution. Social media, as the comms channel, we know it's one of the places that people go to find answers. There's lots of reports on that out there, so many stats on social selling. So I'm just going to share a few with you right now. 40% of business owners use social media to generate sales. Almost 25% of business owners are selling through Facebook. And on the other side, a quarter of consumers say that recommendations they see on social media influences what they buy. So this is the place people are going to find products, to find answers, and to find the people that can help them. So it's why we're talking about this topic today. So the definition. Social selling is the art of using social networks to find, connect with, understand, and nurture sales prospects. It's the modern way to develop meaningful relationships with potential customers that keep you and your brand front of mind, so that you become that natural first point of contact when a prospect is ready to buy. It takes the pitching component out of sales because you're already used to having conversations about your products and services, whether that's face-to-face or whether it's via social media, and organically those conversations produce sales conversations. I know this from my own business and the clients that I work with. In fact, all of my business over the past 8 years has been via referrals and networking. I've never done that cold calling kind of activity. Social selling works. So the 4 techniques that I mentioned we're going to talk about today, it is about building relationships. And it means that it's about one-to-one rather than one-to-many. I'm not at all an advocate of throwing lots of content, throwing lots of messages out there and hoping something sticks. It's got to be one-to-one. We're not looking for hundreds of leads and hundreds of clients, so let's put that effort into having those relationships. We need to use our personal brand as a business owner or a business professional, and we can use social media, any of the platforms, to establish our reputation and credibility around what we do and how we do it. Social listening is vital to social selling. We need to know what people are talking about. We can use social listening to identify customers and opportunities. We need to be proactive as well. Again, this could be Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And we can search any of those tools for signs of buying intent. That's what we're looking for. And if we've got colleagues or peers, we can leverage them and their networks as well to help us get our message out even further. But first, before we dive into anything, this is a step that I often find is missing when I'm doing events, when I'm doing teaching. So I'd encourage you to just take that step back before we dive into social selling techniques and think about our target audience. Who is it that you want to sell to? Who is it you want to build that one-to-one relationship with and work with? It's really important that you define them, and everything you do is about talking to them. It is their age, their gender, their job title. It's about what keeps them up at night. It's where they hang out online. You've got to be talking to them so that they think that what you're saying is absolutely relevant to what they need, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. Otherwise, you are throwing mud at a wall. So have that thought, and then let's move on to the first step, which is personal branding. So what is personal branding? It's a topic we probably hear a lot about, but what is it really? It's about people marketing themselves and their careers as brands. Sometimes we're doing this without even realizing we're doing it. We're doing it when we go to face-to-face networking events. We're doing it in our Twitter bios, our LinkedIn headlines, our about sections on our website. It's what we're doing. It's just telling people. It's about who we are and how others perceive us as well. It's not an overnight activity. It's an ongoing process. We're only ever as good as our last conversation, our last webinar, our last tweet. We're not a one-hit wonder. It's something that builds over time. And because it builds over time, that means it's rooted in authenticity as well. We are our brand, we live our brand. We can't be anything else but be our authentic, real selves. And so it's an asset that must be managed. We need to be aware of how we're talking about ourselves and how others might perceive us. How conscious you are about this kind of activity is kind of up to you. It may feel like it comes naturally, or it may be something that you need to plan and work on, but personal branding is at the heart of social selling. What it helps us to do is be credible. It helps us build trust with people that we want to work with. It helps us to become that go-to person for our topic, for the specialism that we work on. It's also what differentiates us, whether it's the things that you have on your profile, like my profile at the beginning. Some people have the same set of skills, the same set of endorsements. Some people are different, but it's also the things about the kind of clients that you work with, and there's lots of experts in lots of topics. This is about your perceived value. And when you start to develop your personal brand, you live it, you're consistent, that's what people will see. They'll want to work with you. They'll come to you, and it can help you raise your prices too. It can create more opportunities. It also gives you the things that you can engage with your audience about. My intro, lots of that stuff is about content so that I can tell people who I am, what I do, and how I can help them. Part 2, social listening. I love this topic. And when you talk about social media, it kind of feels like it's at the bottom of people's to-do list because they're so focused on posting content or following people. I love this definition. It's from Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. As freelancers, contractors, business owners, we're all interested in being as effective and productive as we can. So this quote, most people don't listen with the intent to understand, they listen with the intent to reply. And I think that's what we're all guilty of, whether it's online or whether it's face-to-face. We're kind of trying to quickly think about how it is we can respond to questions rather than really understand what people are looking for, what the pain points are, what the challenges are that people are facing. We need to kind of go a bit deeper. Now, there are 2 types of online listening, and if you want to dive into this topic further, I'd highly recommend this book called Listen First, which is, as it says, about how to turn social media conversations into business advantage. And it basically is saying that there's 2 types of online listening. One is monitoring to find out what people are talking about, what they're sharing, what they're up to. And the other is about using it for research to kind of test the state of the nation, what people are thinking about, what they're concerned about. We probably know some of those topics right now, given the current news, but there are other things that we can specifically listen for. And they are, here's a short list. We could be listening for complaints about our own business, complaints about our competitors. We could be listening for compliments. I'm working with a client on their portfolio right now, and I'm looking at competitor websites and all their reviews to see what they're being praised on, as well as what their complaints are about. We need to understand the problem that we're helping people to solve. We can listen for questions. We can listen for the impact of campaigns. We can listen if there's a potential crisis in our industry or a subject area. We can also listen to what competitors are doing, what they are releasing, what they're talking about, what they're working on. And then the general crowd. What are the audience talking about right now? We can listen to influencers. Influencer marketing is a whole different topic, but is really important, particularly in social media. Who are the people that people are listening to and responding to and asking for information from? And we need to listen to the point of need. People very often will share on social media when they have a specific need for something. And I've got a couple of examples coming up for you. So with social selling, what are we really listening for? Discussions about your product and your category. We need to listen for intent to purchase signals. I'm looking for someone that does this. We need to seek out when people are asking for recommendations, and you'll see that particularly in groups, which I'll come on to. And what we need to be doing as business owners is sharing content and demonstrating our expertise and being really focused on the interests of our target audience. So here's an example of listening. Twitter, as you may know, is a great social media platform when you have something to complain about and you want something to get resolved. I had an issue a couple of years ago, actually 2015, but I still love this example. I wanted to buy a car. I went into the showroom on the last day of a month, said I want to buy a car. I knew exactly what I wanted. I'd test driven one, I'd seen them around, knew exactly what I wanted and why I wanted it. And I was told I couldn't buy a car that day because the manager wasn't in. So as well as being slightly frustrated by that, the first thing I did was tweet about it. But what was brilliant was that within an hour or so, other car dealers had spotted my complaint and offered to help. And I think that's just wonderful. I've seen this with other providers as well, whether that's online software solutions or things like that, but just listening to complaints. I've given someone a signal. I've gone out there and said, I wanted to buy a car today. So the fact that someone was listening and offered to help was just brilliant. I've seen this on Instagram as well. I said that I'm an author, so I loved the fact that when I was narrating what I was doing, preparing my book, I'd posted on Instagram, 15,000 words ready, proofreading book coming soon. Someone said, need a hand, we're a team of professional proofreaders and editors. Really relevant to what I was talking about and my needs at that time. So go back, have a think about what things you could be listening for and how you can set up that listening. And here's a couple of tools. Hootsuite, the social media management tool. You can do this on a free account as well. If you click into the search box, if you're using Hootsuite, and click show examples, you'll get the screen that's on the right that will actually show you how you could set up columns to be listening for specific words, specific questions, specific dates, and attitude as well, whether it's a positive attitude, a negative attitude, or if it's a question. So once you know what you want to listen to and listen out for, which could be opportunities for your business, using the search function in Hootsuite is one way of doing it. And just one other way of doing it to share with you is a tool called Twilight. If I'm saying that right, it's specifically for Twitter. Twitter is a great social media platform because it is so open and easy to interrogate. Now, Twilight is not a free service, but it's not hugely expensive either. And instead of setting up a column in something like Hootsuite, I could set up Twilight with my criteria, and basically every time that criteria appeared on Twitter, for example, if it was a question about social selling in Gloucestershire where I live, had a question mark on it, Twilight would send me an email alerting me to that tweet so I could go in and respond to it. So if I understand my audience and what I need to listen for to generate opportunities for my business, I can respond and start a conversation. That's listening and being responsive. The other side to social selling is prospecting. This is where you do need to be a bit more proactive. And this is where I believe that the advanced search tools on the social media platforms are really useful as well. But of course, I need to know my target audience and know my criteria. I need to know what I want to search for before I dive into a search tool. LinkedIn has a brilliant search facility, even on a free account. If you had a paid for account, you would get more search criteria and more search results. But my top tip, whether free or paid on LinkedIn, is not just to use and type straight into that box that's on the top left-hand corner. But if you click into it, click on the magnifying glass, you would then see all filters and you would get something that looks like the screenshot on the bottom right that you're seeing right now. I could then start to search for keywords still in the search box. I could search for job title, I could search for a specific skill, a specific piece of software, if that's what I was looking for. I could narrow that down by location, by industry and company. You can't export your search results on LinkedIn, but here is a top tip, that if you have something typed into that search bar box along the top, a couple of other options ticked, and you see your search results, what you would then see coming up is that box called Saved Searches to the left of your screen right now. On a free account, you can save 3 searches. That's 3 sets of search criteria. On a paid for account, 10. And basically, if anyone was to update their LinkedIn profile to meet those criteria, you would get an email about it. So you know who you're searching for, you do some searching, then you save it, and then you would get a prospect list coming straight into your email inbox for your target audience. On a similar vein, Twitter has an advanced search. There's a few options here. You can search for their advanced search. you can see the box that you would get on the right-hand side. You could search for words, you could search for people, you could search for places, and within dates. So you can interrogate Twitter quite a lot. What I really like about Twitter is identifying hashtags and being able to look for the people using those hashtags, whether that is around a topic, whatever's relevant to my business, or particularly when it's relevant to an event that is for people that are in my target audience. So a really key example would be if my target audience was people that worked in social media or interested in social media, I could be picking up on hashtags around social media week events. This screenshot was for Bristol, which happened earlier this year. I believe it's Social Media Week London at the end of this week. So I will be following that hashtag to try and identify people that would be in my target audience and potentially do things like kind of add them to a Twitter list, follow them, engage with them as I went along. So I can prospect and find people if I know who it is I'm trying to find. The other great place to prospect, I'll come back to that one. Other great place to prospect on social media is within groups, whether that is Facebook groups or whether it's LinkedIn groups. People will have set up groups according to interests, according to topics, according to job titles. So I would suggest trying to find some groups where your target audience hang out. And when your target audience hang out in groups on social media, they're very often asking questions to which you can be helpful and offer replies, and questions that you can just identify. So I'm in a number of social media manager groups, and I'm watching the conversation. I'm watching what questions people are asking so that I can help jump in there and be helpful if I want to, or if I can take that insight to create my own content too. So groups are a really good place to spot discussions and be helpful. So I should have said, and just as a reminder, social selling isn't about pitching. So this isn't going into every opportunity going, I can help, here's buy my stuff. This is about answering questions and being helpful so that you can build your personal brand as that go-to credible, authentic expert that people will turn to when they are actually ready to buy. I skipped this slide, so I'm going to talk about it. Another great tool for Twitter, if you want to search for people on Twitter, is a free tool called Follower Wonk. It is as great as it sounds. There's a free version. And what you can do there is search for keywords that might appear in people's Twitter bio. So in that search bio that you can see on the screenshot, I could be searching for keywords, whether that's someone's job title or whether it's something that people might be interested in, the kind of thing they might put in their Twitter bio. For example, if I was trying to sell coffee to people, very often people will put things like coffee addict, coffee lover, Starbucks dweller in their Twitter bios if that's a topic they're really interested in. So I can use a free tool like Follower Wonk to go and seek out my target audience. And step 4, the fourth part to this intro to social selling that isn't about selling, is about using your colleagues. If you do work for yourself, then apply the same principles to peers that you may have, that you collaborate with, that you support, that you often work with and can share their content. So employee advocacy is about the promotion of your company by the people who work for it. It is a great marketing tactic because it's sustainable to encourage employees, colleagues, peers to share your messages in an organic way, no paid for. And it's a great opportunity to be able to expand the reach and engagement you have with customers, prospects, and other stakeholders. And the reason that advocacy is so important is that people are more likely to trust company information when it comes out by an individual than when it comes out from a logo. And because employees, peers, etc., will have more first-degree connections than the company has followers. So it's the kind of the power of the people. And because people trust people and buy from people, that kind of grows out the authenticity message as well. People will trust recommendations from people that they know. What's in it for the company by encouraging their employees to get involved in sharing their content? Well, it just helps extend the reach and generate more brand awareness. As we saw from the stat, it helps people are much more likely to engage with the content when it comes out from individuals. This is all organic rather than paid. It helps people achieve thought leadership positioning because it's people's insights, opinions, and content that they're sharing. It's brilliant for recruitment as well. People want to work with people, not logos. It helps keep staff engaged if they can see that they're contributing to the bigger picture. If you collaborate with others, you're all kind of helping each other to win new business. And it means that this whole concept of social selling just has a greater conversion if you've got people helping you share. And it's what we'd call earned media. As I said earlier, it's organic, we're not paying for it. So it's good for budgets too. And what's in it for employees, your colleagues or your peers? Well, it helps them build their reputation as well. It helps them grow their networks, get further reach by using your content and your messages and supporting. And it's empowering them to make an impact. We very often work in silos within organisations as ourselves as freelancers. So this is really empowering people to kind of extend the reach of their network and work together, and helps people just be more engaged. If you are interested in stats around social selling, however, whether you like the numbers or not, LinkedIn does have a social selling index, which can be quite useful just to give you an indicator of how well you're doing right now. And you will see, if you go to the URL that's on the bottom of the slide, that their social selling index is based around the 4 factors that I've been talking about today. Your personal brand, the right people, engaging with content and insights, and building relationships. So the fact that LinkedIn will give you a stat to show how well you're doing if you're using that platform could be a useful benchmark for you, for your colleagues and peers as well. Just to give you some insight and a score, because we all like to have a benchmark number. To start wrapping up, it's almost 1 o'clock. Thanks for sticking with the session today. This is all about focusing on relationships with your target audience, selling without pitching, but spending time one-to-one building relationships. It's about searching for opportunities and for people. And if you have got time to set up the tools or you want to automate some of that searching, then use a couple of the tools that I've suggested. Hanging out in groups online, that is where discussions are taking place. That is the emphasis of Facebook right now, is to encourage people to participate in groups and find groups of value. LinkedIn have rebuilt their groups functionality. If you can find the right groups, you'll find the right conversations. As well as monitoring for opportunities, do take time to listen. Listen to your target audience, listen to pain points, challenges, and within that listening, you will find opportunities. And sell yourself, be authentic, but you do that by being helpful, not by pitching. And you'll build trust by telling stories. So the way to be helpful is not just I've got a book on that or I've got a course on that. It's to give examples, to share case studies, to let people know how, give examples. Showing up consistently, for me, is probably the biggest key to social media. We know that we get really busy and we get our heads down and don't have time for marketing. But if you can just make some of this stuff a habit, schedule time for it in your calendar to do it regularly, then it will pay off for you. You won't have, hopefully, the dips and the peaks in your business when you're really busy or when you're really quiet. If you can just make social selling some of these habits that you just show up consistently, it will really help your business. And I would say the key to using social media for developing your business, winning new clients, retaining clients, is to try and use it to stay in front of them, but then move conversations off social media. Kind of use it to reach out to people, stay in front of them, nurture the relationships, but then really do try and move it to a meeting or a Skype or Zoom call. For me, this is just going to sum up my presentation, that a coffee is still the most popular handheld device for catching up with someone. So use social media to find, identify, build relationships, and then take it face to face, because I do believe that that's where business is done. It's exactly 30 minutes. I couldn't time it better if I'd planned it. Does anyone have any questions? You will get a copy of the slides. If you think of questions afterwards, because I know that often happens, then please do feel free to drop me a message. I'm quite easy to find on social media, so just search for Luan Wise. How much time is spent on social media a day? As I said, the point of being consistent, I think, is the most important. I train a lot of lawyers and professional services to use social media. And I think once you've got your profiles looking great and credible and complete, and you have a plan around content and maybe even created some content, such as blogs, to be sharing, I genuinely think that you could spend 10 minutes or less a day to be active on social media. Could be just a handful of tasks on a daily basis to check in, see what's going on. Maybe if you have time, a couple more shorter sessions throughout the week, perhaps 15 minutes on a Friday, 20 minutes on a Monday kind of thing, just to check in and start conversations. But it's important for you to know how much time you've got to spend and that you're getting a return on the time that you spend on it. But honestly, probably not anywhere near as long as you think if you're really focused on who you want to speak to and what content you've got to share with them. Any more questions? Thank you. The next webinar is on the 11th of November, on Monday the 11th of November, same time, 12:30. And on that day, I will be talking about stories for social media. We know in terms of content, stories are increasingly popular. That's on Instagram and Facebook. On the 9th of December, I will be doing my annual review on social media, wrapping up everything that's happened and changed this year, which is obviously quite a lot. Social media is always changing. So they're the next two webinars with me, and we are currently working on our 2020 programme. So if there's any other topics you'd like to hear about, then please drop myself or the events team at IPSE a message. If there's no more questions, I've got off lightly today, I think. Thank you very much for joining us. Apologies again for the technical issues a couple of weeks ago, and have a great day.